On April 1st, Burma will be holding by-elections for 48 assembly seats. But the leader of the main opposition party and Nobel Peace Laureate Aung San Suu Kyi has expressed concerns that the by-elections will not be fair and open, and she's asked that outsiders monitor the by-elections closely. It's the first time that her party, the National League for Democracy, has campaigned since 1990, when the Burmese military refused to recognize a party's victory and unleashed a wave of repression. These scenes are from a new documentary called Into the Current: Burma's Political Prisoners. Thousands of Burmese were arrested and sentenced to imprisonment for opposing the military. The first wave of arrests occurred after Suu Kyi's supporters protested the overturning of the 1990 elections. One of the protesters was a man named Bo Kyi.
I led a demonstration calling for the release of all students detainees who are in prison. Military officer asked one question: did I commit a crime? I replied absolutely no. Then he replied 3 years imprisonment with hard labor, that's all. Finish the trial.
Bo Kyi received a relatively lenient sentence. Others were sentenced to 20, 30, even 50 years of imprisonment, and some died while still in prison. After his release, Bo Kyi escaped to Thailand, where he co-founded an NGO called the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners. Bo Kyi has since won an award from the Human Rights Watch for his work on helping political prisoners.
I was arrested when I was eating with my family. I was handcuffed, hooded, and taken away in the car. I was ordered to lie down so that no one could see me. When I removed my hood, I saw I was in a tiny cell. When I looked on the wall, I saw blood from the prisoners who came before me. People had carved their names on the wall. Some of those names were the names of my friends. I asked myself, where are they now? Are they in prison? Are they being tortured? Are they dead? I decided to speak for my colleagues who still remain in prison.
He's now visiting the U.S. to organize support for the up to 800 Burmese prisoners who weren't released during last January's amnesty. Bo Kyi, welcome to LinkAsia. How long have some of these political prisoners been held in jail for?
Some of them were in prison for more than 20 years. Some of them are in prison for more than 10 years. Some of them are in prison for 5 years, or 3 years, or 2 years.
And how frequently are the prisoners being released?
According to the Burmese regime's attitudes, sometimes they made an amnesty. Amnesty is so-called amnesty. Sometimes they reduce 1 year. Sometimes they release some people who completed. Sometimes they release some political prisoners who did not complete their imprisonment. So it is really difficult to predict, or it is really difficult to say what time they were released or what time they will not be released.
For the ones who have been released, are they still subjected to harassment by the regime?
Yeah, that's true, because they are not regarded as political prisoners. It means after they were released, they have to suffer the consequences. For example, lawyers who were released from prison, after they were released, they did not get back their license. It means they cannot continue their profession or their survival things. So it is really, really cruel by the regime. Another thing is students who want to continue their education, they cannot continue back. They cannot continue their education back. It means students cannot continue their education. Not only they receive torture in prison, but also after they were released, they did not receive back their status quo.
What do the continued detentions and harassment of those who've been let go tell you about the regime's promises of reform?
They see cautiously optimistic, but in the meanwhile, they cannot guarantee for themselves also. They feel insecure for themselves for the time being, but in the meanwhile, they are trying to advocate for the more reform.
And what's your take on the upcoming April 1st by-elections?
By-election is not much important for the opposition and democracy and human rights, because in 2010 election,
current like the Burmese region, they have already taken all the position and all the seats in the parliament. Now it's like the 48 seats. That is very minority. So therefore, we cannot expect much from the by-election. Another thing is now we are seeing, and we do not see like the free and fair election for upcoming by-election, because like we got information that when they count on voter list, they included those who died, or they included those who like they did not come in did not come like the full age for the voting. So that's the way like we got information that it means. So we do not see like the free and fair election for upcoming by-election.
Thanks so much for joining us. Bo Kyi is a former political prisoner from Burma who's campaigning in the U.S. to raise awareness of other political prisoners still held in Burma.
Now on U.S. airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.